Last Friday afternoon, I was sitting in my small clinic at the medical center, preparing to end a long workday, when there was a gentle knock at the door. A 94-year-old gentleman walked in, looking quite exhausted, but with eyes still bright and alert. William Thompson. I remember his name clearly, because he was one of the most remarkable patients I've encountered in my 35 years of practice. Over more than 3 decades treating thousands of elderly patients in California. I've witnessed many memorable stories, but William's story completely changed how I think about nutrition in old age, especially about eggs, a food that almost everyone considers healthy. That day, William told me he had been eating eggs every day for the past 70 years, since he was a young man during World War II. "Doctor, I believe eggs are the reason I've lived this long," he said with a slightly trembling voice. "But lately, I've been feeling much weaker, even though I still eat eggs regularly every day." Hearing him speak, I was suddenly reminded of similar stories I had encountered over the years. How many people like William, with absolute faith in habits they believed were good, were unknowingly harming themselves without realizing it? I decided to investigate his eating habits more thoroughly, and what I discovered made me extremely worried. Throughout my career, I've learned that even the best foods can become dangerous if we don't know how to use them properly. They contain complete high-quality protein, essential vitamins and minerals, but eating them incorrectly can turn them from medicine into poison. Imagine your body like a classic car that has been running for many years. When it was new, it could run on any type of fuel, could endure rough driving, but when it's aged, it needs more delicate care, requires suitable fuel, and gentle handling. Our bodies are the same. What was safe when young can become dangerous in old age. When I asked more carefully about his eating habits, I discovered that William had made most of the dangerous mistakes when eating eggs that many elderly people commonly make. Every morning at 6 o'clock, he would wake up and immediately eat 2 eggs fried in butter at high temperature, along with his heart medication. To avoid cholesterol, as he thought, he only ate egg whites at lunch and discarded all the yolks. Occasionally, he liked eating soft-boiled eggs, because he believed raw eggs were more nutritious than cooked ones. He also took the blood thinner warfarin at the same time as eating eggs, not knowing this could be dangerous. And when cooking eggs, he often made the pan very hot to thoroughly kill bacteria, as he believed. These habits, accumulated over 70 years, had gradually damaged his health without his knowledge. In the first month of meeting him, I noticed he had worrying symptoms like chronic fatigue, occasional numbness in hands and feet, poor digestion, and most importantly, unstable blood clotting control, despite taking medication regularly. "Sir," I said carefully, "perhaps your egg-eating habits need some adjustment. Not because eggs aren't good, but because of how you're eating them." Initially, he was very skeptical. "Doctor, I've been eating this way for 70 years and remained healthy." But when I explained to him about the changes in the body with age, he began to listen. It took 3 months to convince him to change each habit gradually. I didn't make him change everything at once, knowing that at 94 changing 70-year-old habits wasn't easy. The results after 6 months of changes surprised both him and me. His energy levels increased noticeably, the numbness in his hands and feet decreased significantly, digestion improved, and most importantly, his blood thinner control became much more stable. "Doctor, I feel like I've been reborn," he told me during his most recent visit. Who would have thought that changing how I eat eggs would have such a big effect? William's story prompted me to research this issue more deeply. I began paying attention to the egg-eating habits of other patients and discovered that many people were making similar mistakes. There was Margaret Chun, 78 years old, who got severe salmonella poisoning from her habit of eating soft-boiled eggs every morning and had to be hospitalized for 2 weeks. There was Robert Martinez, 82 years old, who suffered severe biotin deficiency from only eating egg whites, leading to chronic fatigue and signs of memory decline. And Dorothy Williams, 75 years old, who had problems with blood thinners from eating eggs at the same time, causing the medication's effectiveness to decrease and requiring multiple dose adjustments. Each of these stories shared one common point. These people had no intention of harming their health. They ate eggs with good intentions, but lack of knowledge about proper eating had turned nutritious food into a hidden danger. Today, sitting here with the experience of someone who has witnessed medicine developed over many decades, I want to share with you the valuable lessons I've learned from William and hundreds of other patients. Perhaps it will help you or your loved ones avoid similar mistakes and maximize the benefits from eggs while still protecting your health. Through 35 years of practice, I've realized that many people have the mistaken belief that good food can be eaten anyway. This is completely incorrect, especially for elderly people. Imagine your body like a sophisticated chemical factory. When young, this factory operates at maximum capacity, can process everything efficiently. But when aged, some parts in this factory work slower, some enzymes reduce production, and the immune system is no longer as strong as before. Eggs, with all their wonderful benefits, need to be prepared correctly so the body can maximize their use without encountering side effects. That's exactly why how we eat eggs is so important. First, habit to avoid. Only eating egg whites when hungry. This was exactly the mistake that William and many of my patients made. They thought that discarding yolks would help avoid cholesterol, but in reality, they were harming themselves. when I explained to William about a substance in egg whites that can prevent biotin absorption, that is, vitamin B7. He was very surprised. I didn't know about this, he admitted. For decades, I thought I was doing something good for my health. Biotin is an extremely important vitamin, especially in old age. It helps maintain nerve function, skin health, and cognitive ability. Biotin deficiency can lead to unexplained chronic fatigue, numbness in hands and feet, muscle weakness, unusual hair loss, memory decline, even depression. I remember Eleanor's case from the clinic last year. She was 81 years old, came to see me because of increasingly severe numbness in her hands and feet. After careful questioning, I discovered she had only been eating egg whites for 5 years because she feared cholesterol. Blood tests showed she had severe biotin deficiency. The important thing you need to understand, I often tell patients, is that egg yolks don't just contain cholesterol. They also contain lecithin, omega-3, and especially biotin. These very substances help your body process cholesterol more efficiently. Lecithin in egg yolks is particularly important for elderly brains. It helps maintain nerve cell membranes and supports nerve transmission. Lutein and zeaxanthin protect eyes from macular degeneration, a common problem in old age. When you only eat whites, you not only miss these precious substances but also create danger for yourself. The problem becomes worse when you eat egg whites on an empty stomach. At this time, stomach acid has high concentration, making Avidin work stronger, preventing biotin absorption more effectively. That's why William often felt numbness in his hands and feet on mornings after eating egg whites. I advised him to always eat both yolk and white together and never eat eggs on an empty stomach, but should eat them during or after main meals. Combined with green vegetables or whole grain bread, William changed this habit, and after 2 months, the numbness in his hands and feet decreased noticeably. Now, I can hold a pen to write without shaking, he happily shared with me. Second habit to avoid: eating raw eggs or Doctor, I heard that raw eggs are more nutritious than cooked ones, so sometimes I drink raw eggs, William admitted during his first examination. I was startled and immediately explained to him about the potential dangers. At 94, William's immune system was no longer as strong as when he was young. Eating raw eggs put him at very high risk of salmonella infection, a bacteria that can cause serious food poisoning. I told him about another patient of mine, Marcus 8, who had the habit of drinking raw eggs with whiskey every night before bed. He believed this was his grandfather's secret to longevity. Until one day, he got severe salmonella poisoning and had to be hospitalized for emergency treatment. Salmonella doesn't just cause simple stomach pain, I explained to William. In elderly people, it can cause severe dehydration, high fever, and even life-threatening blood infection. According to CDC statistics, the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, people over 65 have the highest mortality rate from salmonella infection. This isn't to frighten you, but to help you understand the importance of cooking eggs thoroughly. Besides, raw eggs have other problems. They impede vitamin absorption because avidin in raw egg whites works strongest, completely preventing biotin absorption. They also destroy intestinal flora because proteins in raw eggs can bind with beneficial bacteria in the gut, disrupting microbiome balance, which is very important for immunity and mental health in old age. And raw egg protein is harder to digest than cooked protein, burdening the already weakened digestive system. I guided William to cook eggs at a temperature of at least 74 degrees Celsius. Boil eggs for 9 to 12 minutes until the yolk is completely firm. Avoid eggs with cracked or dirty shells. Store eggs in the refrigerator and use within 2 weeks. And always wash hands clean after touching eggshells. After my explanation, William completely gave up the habit of eating raw eggs. I don't want any risks at this age, he said. And indeed, he no longer experienced those mysterious stomach pains he frequently had before. Third habit to avoid: eating eggs at the same time as taking medication. This is an issue I frequently encounter in elderly patients. Many people have the habit of taking medicine with breakfast, and eggs are often the main food at breakfast. However, this can cause dangerous interactions they don't know about. William was taking warfarin, a very common blood thinner in elderly people to prevent stroke and heart attack. I discovered he had the habit of taking this medicine at the same time as eating fried eggs every morning. Sir, this can be very dangerous, I told him seriously. Egg yolks contain a lot of vitamin K, and vitamin K can reduce warfarin's effectiveness. Warfarin works by preventing vitamin K from participating in the blood clotting process. When you suddenly increase vitamin K from eggs, the medicine can lose effectiveness, increasing the risk of blood clot formation. Conversely, if you suddenly reduce egg consumption, the medicine can work too strongly, causing bleeding risk. I remember Harold's frightening case, 83 years old. Last year, he had brain hemorrhage from taking warfarin with a large amount of eggs. Fortunately, we discovered it in time and saved him, but he had to go through a very difficult recovery period. Blood thinners like warfarin aren't the only medications affected. Antibiotics like tetracycline or quinolone, calcium, magnesium, and iron in eggs combine with them, reducing absorption and treatment effectiveness. Iron supplements are the same. Protein in egg whites can hinder iron absorption, especially dangerous for people with anemia. Thyroid medications like levothyroxine should be taken on an empty stomach, at least 1 hour away from eggs. Blood pressure and statin medications should be taken at least 2 hours away from eggs to avoid affecting absorption. Calcium and zinc supplements can also have their absorption hindered by eggs. I remember Dorothy, 70, who had anemia but didn't understand why her condition wasn't improving despite taking iron tablets regularly. It turned out she had the habit of eating eggs at the same time as taking iron tablets every morning. After I guided William to change his medication timing, leaving at least 2 hours between eating eggs and taking medicine, with important medications leaving 4 hours gap, always consulting doctors or pharmacists about drug interactions, and recording egg eating and medication times for monitoring his INR test results. The index measuring warfarin effectiveness became much more stable. Now I take medicine at 7 a.m. and eat eggs at 2 p.m., he shared, and the doctor says my indices are very good. Fourth habit to avoid: eating eggs from 6 to 8 a.m. This is a habit that almost all my patients have, including William. They think eating eggs early in the morning will provide energy for the whole day, but in reality, it can cause more harm than good. Do you know? I explained to William. From 6 to 8 a.m. is when the body produces the most cortisol of the day. Cortisol is often called the stress hormone, but it's actually a very important hormone that helps regulate our daily biological rhythm. The problem is cortisol has the effect of stimulating the liver to produce cholesterol. When you eat eggs, which already contain cholesterol, right when cortisol peaks, your body will have to deal with double the amount of cholesterol from eggs and from additional liver production due to cortisol's impact. I remember Ronald's case, 78 years old, who ate 2 fried eggs every morning at 6 o'clock for 40 years. He was proud of this habit until he had a heart attack. Tests showed his cholesterol level was twice the safe threshold. But doctor, I ate eggs to be healthy, Ronald told me after being discharged. That was exactly the problem, I explained to him. Eggs are good for health, but timing is very important. Besides the cortisol issue, early morning isn't the best time for protein digestion either. After a night's rest, our digestive system needs time to fully activate. Immediately eating protein-rich eggs can burden the stomach, leading to indigestion, bloating, heartburn. I advised William to eat eggs from 2 to 4 p.m. This is when the body produces the least cortisol of the day. The digestive system works most powerfully, and the liver also works most efficiently to metabolize cholesterol. You should also always eat eggs with vegetables, as fiber in vegetables helps reduce cholesterol absorption, especially vegetables like broccoli, spinach, and onions all combined well with eggs. Initially I found it strange, William shared, but after a few weeks, I realized I digested better and no longer felt heavy in the stomach like before. If protein was needed in the morning, I advised him to choose foods that are easier to digest like tofu or Greek yogurt. They're rich in protein but less digestively burdensome, more suitable for breakfast. And I also advised him to avoid eating eggs before bed, because protein requires a lot of energy to digest, which can disrupt sleep. Nighttime is when the body needs to focus on recovery and regeneration, not spending energy on digestion. After 3 months of changing egg eating time, William reported to me that he slept better, woke up more refreshed, and importantly, blood cholesterol indices had improved significantly. I never thought changing eating time would be so important, he told me during a follow-up visit. Fifth habit to avoid: cooking eggs with high-temperature oil. Fried eggs are a cooking method many people like, and William was no exception. For 70 years, he had eaten eggs fried in butter at high temperature every day. I make the pan really hot to kill all bacteria, he explained to me. However, this was one of the most harmful cooking methods, especially for elderly people. Egg protein is very sensitive to heat. When cooked at too high temperature, exceeding 212 degrees Fahrenheit, protein structure becomes severely making it difficult for digestive enzymes to break them down. This creates a large burden for the digestive system. And in elderly people with already weakened stomach function, this problem becomes even more serious. An even bigger problem is when oil or butter is heated at high temperature, exceeding their smoke point. It creates harmful substances like aldehyde. These substances not only directly irritate stomach lining, but also cause inflammation and increase oxidative stress in the body. For elderly people, whose natural antioxidant systems have weakened, exposure to these substances is even more dangerous. High-temperature cooking also destroys choline, a valuable nutrient in egg yolks. Choline plays an important role in maintaining brain health and memory, helping slow cognitive decline in elderly people. Destroying choline through a high-temperature cooking is truly a great loss. I remember Jane Smith's story, 84 years old, another patient of mine. She had eaten fried eggs every day and gradually developed chronic gastritis. Her appetite gradually decreased. She lost weight and always felt uncomfortable after eating. Initially, she and her family thought these were just normal signs of aging, but when she came to see me and changed her egg cooking method, symptoms improved markedly. There was also George Smith, 82 years old, who had loved fried eggs his whole life, but as he aged, they became increasingly difficult to digest, and he suffered severe heartburn. "Doctor, I don't understand why the food I love became my enemy," he sadly told me. After changing his cooking method to boiling, his digestive discomfort decreased significantly and protein absorption also improved. I guided William to switch to the boiling method. Put eggs in cold water and boil on low heat for 10 minutes. This helps minimize protein denaturation, leading to better nutrient absorption and easier digestion. Importantly, reduce heat and boil on low heat when water starts boiling. Continuous boiling on high heat can make egg protein too hard, still difficult to digest. I also introduced him to other cooking methods like steamed eggs or poached eggs, cooked slowly at low temperature. Steaming is gentle cooking with steam, while poaching is gently cooking eggs in lightly boiling water. Both methods don't use oil and minimize protein denaturation. Especially, I advised him to avoid cooking eggs in the microwave. The rapid and uneven heating of microwaves severely denatures protein structure, and sometimes there's even explosion risk due to pressure. Microwaves heat unevenly, making some parts too hot and some parts undercooked, making digestion more difficult. I also advised him to use herbs and spices when cooking eggs. Turmeric, pepper, fresh herbs not only increase flavor but also promote digestion and have anti-inflammatory effects. Very beneficial for elderly health. Especially, curcumin in turmeric has powerful anti-inflammatory effects and is good for brain health. Initially, I thought boiled eggs would be bland, William shared. But when the doctor guided me to add various spices, I found them no less delicious than fried eggs, and much easier to digest. After 6 months of persistently changing all these habits, William had amazing improvements. The numbness in his hands and feet almost completely disappeared. "Now I can hold chopsticks to eat rice without worrying about dropping them," he happily told me. His energy levels increased noticeably. He could walk longer without feeling tired. Digestion improved significantly. He no longer had bloating or heartburn after eating. Most importantly, all his test indices were stable within good ranges. Controlling the blood thinner warfarin was no longer erratic as before, helping him reduce anxiety about stroke or bleeding risk. Blood biotin levels returned to normal, and inflammatory markers in the body also decreased significantly. "Doctor, I feel like I've been reborn," he told me during his most recent examination. "No one could believe that just by changing how I eat eggs, I could feel this healthy at night." What impressed me most was that his spirit also changed positively. Before, he often worried about his health, often felt like a burden to his family. But now, he was full of energy and optimism. "I feel like I can live many more years to see my grandchildren grow up," he shared with bright eyes. William's story taught me and many colleagues valuable lessons about the importance of proper eating in old age. The first thing is that no food is absolutely bad or good, but what matters is how we use them. Eggs are a perfect example. They can be superfood or danger, depending on how they're eaten. The second thing is that our bodies change over time, and eating habits need to be adjusted accordingly. What was safe and effective when young can become harmful when old. That's not a sign of weakness, but of the sophistication and complexity of the mature body. The third thing is the importance of education and knowledge sharing. William had been eating incorrectly for many years, not because he didn't care about his health, but because he wasn't provided with correct information. When explained clearly and patiently, he was willing to change and achieved excellent results. I also learned that changing habits in old age isn't impossible, just requires proper guidance and patience. William proved that at 94, people can still learn, change, and improve their health amazingly. If you're reading this story and recognize yourself having similar habits to William, don't worry or blame yourself. What's important is that from now on, you have the right knowledge to change. Start slowly. Change each habit gradually instead of trying to change everything at once. First, always eat both yolk and white together, and never eat eggs on an empty stomach. Eat them during or after meals, combined with green vegetables or whole grain bread. Second, make sure to cook eggs thoroughly at a temperature of at least 74 degrees Celsius. Avoid raw or soft-boiled eggs. Boil eggs for 9 to 12 minutes, and always store eggs in the refrigerator. Third, if you're taking medication, especially blood thinners, antibiotics, or iron supplements, leave at least 2 hours between eating eggs and taking medicine. With important medications, leave 4 hours gap and always consult doctors. Fourth, change a getting time from early morning to afternoon. 2 to 4 p.m. is the best time. Finally, change cooking method from frying to boiling, steaming, or poaching. Avoid cooking at high temperature and use herbs and spices to increase flavor and health benefits. Remember that these changes may take time to see results, just like William took 6 months to see comprehensive improvement. But day by day, meal by meal, you're investing in your long-term health.